Look at all those good-looking faces.
Well, accepting.
Oh, stop. Everyone's beautiful. Hi, Deb.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Hey, Deb.
Hi, Rob. How are
Michael,
you?
how are you? Lloyd, how are you?
Good, good. Haven't seen you guys in a while.
Yeah.
Busy summer.
I think it's been kind of crazy, hasn't it?
Mhm.
And I thought everything was going to go back to normal here in September, and not quite.
Exactly. Hey, Michael.
Are you guys finding this fourth wave is having an effect kind of with the people you know?
I don't know. More of the same, I think, right?
Well, I've definitely heard of more people that have gotten it in the last little while.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
There's 3 or 4 people at my wife's work that have got it.
That's not good.
Yeah, and my nephew and my niece and nephew, they got it. Supposed to meet with a guy last week who got it, the Delta variant.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so it's going around. Lloyd, where's that picture of? That looks familiar.
Probably the shoe swap.
Okay, that does look familiar. I
Yeah.
know it does.
Hi, Lloyd. We haven't met.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sure.
I think maybe what we'll do is while we're waiting for everyone, we'll get everyone just to do a quick 10-second introduction. Great. Michael, do you want to start?
Oh, why not? Yeah, good day, everybody. Nice to meet you all. You know, most of you know, yeah, I even know Lloyd as well. It's been a long time. Good to see you. Serial entrepreneur, and we have a health and wellness company, a consumer packaged goods called Sol Strips that's entered into the marketplace, and we've got 5 products that we're selling. And I do some consulting work with Mr. Brad here as well. So we help budding leaders hopefully perform. And I'm a father of 2 daughters who are at now at UBC Okanagan for their 3rd year for the oldest, 2nd year for the youngest. And they've gone 50-50, 50 digital classes, 50 in classroom. So, and that may change to being 100% fully digital, unfortunately.
Thanks, Michael. Deb, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Deb Millamacca-Miles, consultant, fractional CEO kind of roles, and working with Brad and Rob on some various activities. And yeah, I live in Calgary, 3 boys, sold our house in Ontario, just got back yesterday. So took advantage of the market out there. So that worked out well. And oh yes, and setting up a practice with Tech Canada as a chair for small business groups.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Lloyd, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Brad. My name is Lloyd Hampshire. I run a recruiting firm here in Calgary called Real Recruitment. If anybody is good at anagrams, it's actually the name of my entire family. So my daughter, Rebecca, who just graduated high school and is working at a massage therapist clinic as a reception. My son, Ethan, who is now with a company called Lucid Motors as a mechanical engineer down in San Francisco. My wife, Angela, who's a wills and estate lawyer, and of course, we'll save the best for last, which is Lloyd, who is the owner-operator of Real Recruitment, who we focus on providing the right staff for your company. Plain and simple. Thanks, Brad.
Excellent. Thank you. Amanda?
Hello, good morning. So my name is Amanda Delamere. I am a leadership coach and facilitator. And so I help managers be stronger leaders, and I support organizations to thrive one leader at a time. And I have the pleasure of working with Lloyd and Shama and Brad and Rob. Nice to see you again. So we support organizations with their culture, and myself in particular, developing leaders, one-on-one coaching, triad, team, and group coaching and facilitation.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
I think in terms of ourselves, Shama, you're going to have a chance to introduce yourself in the presentation itself. I'm Brad Gollin. I'm a co-founder of Mexit with some other very talented gentlemen, including Rob here. And really we're about maximizing the value in exit and empowering business owners to exit their businesses successfully. So, Rob, do you want to do yourself as well?
I actually know everybody in this room. So my name is Rob Welke. I'm a co-founder of the Mexit process along with Brad, and primarily focused on helping business owners get themselves ready to exit successfully.
Excellent. So I just turned off my phone. We won't be hearing any of that background noise anymore. And let's jump into the presentation. So basically today we're going to be featuring Shama, as you know, because you didn't come here for our pretty faces. You came here for Shama's insight. And the focus really is increasing the sale value of a business using performance management. Because as we all know, and I think I'll have a shared belief, the biggest value asset in any business really is the people. So for us, our focus is on this kind of, well, it's not just a Canadian challenge, it's a global challenge. And it's the fact that, as BDC says, 40% of Canadian small, medium business owners, the ownership's going to transition in the next 5 years. And so that is just a tidal wave of business transitions coming. But the statistics are rather terrifying when you look at it, because the fact is, currently only 1 in 10 small, medium businesses is exiting successfully. 80% of the businesses that go up for sale never sell. The ones that do sell for half the value they expected. And 85 to 90% of the average business owner's net worth is tied up in their business. So if they can't sell, what happens to them? What happens to their retirement? What happens to their people? What happens to the economy and the communities they're working in if those businesses shut down? So, the need here, we think, is really significant. And really the question we challenge is, how do you ensure that you're going to be successful in your exit? How do you ensure you're the 1 in 10, or ideally, how do we move that 1 in 10 number? That's the question. So the methodology we've developed is really kind of built around every business owner needs to anticipate 3 phases in their exit. There's a maximize value phase where proactively in advance of the transaction, you've got an opportunity to make some changes in your business that really set it up for success and maximize the value and give you more options. The next phase, and this is typically where the accountants, the BDCs of the world, those kind of guys, this is typically where they're really focused, is how do we facilitate the transaction? How do you ensure that the transaction is set up and positioned so you're really getting the most value through that transaction? And then the last phase is typically new ownership is not going to let you just kind of run away with a big check from your business sale. Usually there's a phase where there's some retained involvement. You've still got to be there to really transition the most value to the new ownership. So any business owner really needs to anticipate and kind of plan for all three phases. And a great exit doesn't just happen. Being that 1 in 10 doesn't just happen. It's really a discipline. It is a conscious transformation. Our acid test is, if you ask any business owner if they can take an 8-week holiday without affecting their business, if the answer is no, then really they don't have a sellable business today. If it is that critical, on their involvement and on their role within the organization. So it's conscious transformation, clear goals, planned action, executed well, and it's about producing that maximum value when it's time for their exit. So that's kind of how Mexit fits. And in our discussions and our kind of interactions with Shama, it became obvious to us that in her HR function, and since people are the key to retaining value in a company, there was some great overlap here. So Shama, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and kind of position how your performance management 3.0 can really be a valuable asset in building value in the organization.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Brad. So hello, everybody. I believe I know everybody here except Michael. Lovely to meet you today. So my name is Shama Yunus-Joynt. My company is SYJ Consulting. I am an HR professional with 15 plus years experience, and I currently now, as a consultant, I have a passion about building great company culture and maximizing employee engagement. So we're going to talk about performance management today, as Brad said. And I think what's really important to understand is, what do we mean by performance management? We're not talking about ticking boxes and rating people and kind of doing that drudgery of that once a year thing. I mean, those are the pictures that come up for people when we talk about performance management. So today I'm going to invite you to look at a little bit more of a fresh perspective. So first of all, we know that the biggest line item in our financial statements is payroll and benefits. And it just makes good business sense to maximize the return on that investment that you're making. So today I'm going to invite you to look at this whole thing from a fresh perspective. When it comes to good company culture, it is surely about having the right people doing the right things, but more importantly, it's about you, the business owner, the senior executive, manager, or supervisor. It's about how you communicate and ultimately treat the people who work in your organization. And I want to be clear that I'm not talking about pizza parties and perks as much as I'm talking about managing expectations, both yours and those of your employees. And I believe that one of the major ways in which your company culture develops, and by the way, your high-performing teams develop, is through performance management. So let's look in this a little bit further. Next, please, Brad. So what exactly is Performance Management 3.0? Just to clarify, that's the name that Brad and Rob have lovingly given my philosophy after we met and talked and really kind of hit it off in terms of how we saw culture and performance management and what we see happening in businesses today. Brad came up with this moniker, and I think it's actually really great. So it's my pleasure to share with you what we mean by performance management 3.0. So it is a philosophy more than it is a process. It goes without saying that every process that we have in our business should be rooted in a mindset and a philosophy. And so that's really what I'm going to be talking about today. So what it is it's an environment where positive culture is born and propagated. So we don't always look at the minute details of culture. We look at the big things. We look at big value statements, and we look at processes, and we look at those types of things. We don't always look at the behaviors and the smaller things that we tolerate and that we do that either create good culture or bad culture. So we're going to talk a little bit more about awareness around that kind of stuff. It is also where a culture is also an environment where all conversations are possible. So an example of that would be if I have an issue with something that's happening in my work, in my area, and if I can go and talk to my boss about it without worrying about losing my job, without worrying about reprimand, without worrying that this thing's going to be hung around my neck or I'm going to get blamed for it, that is an environment where all conversations are possible. We know from our experience that there's many things that happen that we can't talk about because it's not tolerated. It's not something that anyone is open to. Our manager might take it personally, so we can't hurt their feelings or whatever that is. So a good positive culture is one where all conversations are possible. And yes, performance management can make that happen. And it is also an environment where processes are qualitative. And so what I mean by that is we have nuanced conversations. We don't just have 5 categories of behavior and a scale of 1 to 5 where we sit down for that performance management interview and we tick the boxes and say, okay, well, you know, you're a 3 out of a 5 and how can you be a 4, etc. We talk about a two-way conversation that is largely qualitative, as in, how do you like working here? Or what do you think you can do to improve? What are the ways that you learn? Is there something that we can do to set you up for greater success? And have a conversation that's like that rather than a one-way quantitative conversation. So therefore, performance management is not a rating system. It is not that once per year drudgery that has to be done. I've worked in HR in very large companies with thousands of employees. And, you know, it was that once a year activity that HR was tasked to have complete. We used to have to bug managers in all departments over and over again to get their performance management done. And everybody hated it and nobody thought that it was important. And the sad part about it is that I think the absolute sad part about it is that these interviews for performance management are absolutely loaded. People's promotions, their raises, all of that's depending on it. So this was actually a really important process. And so what a waste of time and opportunity, and hence Performance Management 3.0. Next slide, please, Brad. So without getting into the nitty-gritty of what I mean, I'd like to keep this conversation a lot more high level so that you can see how you could apply it in your own organizations. So performance management does 2 things. Not only does it manage performance, that's what the name is, but it helps to create what Brad was talking about, the high performing teams. So how you manage your teams and how you manage your people can create what we are calling high performing teams. And we'll talk about how to do that in a minute. So that is one of the functions of performance management, is to really improve your team and get them to do the work without you there, right? As Brad said, can you be away for a 2-week vacation and they'll just pick it up and move with it. The other aspect, which is less talked about and less, what we're less aware of, is the culture that develops with how you manage performance. So imagine if you've got this once a year drudgery where you've got to sit down with your boss and they have this form in front of them. And that's what performance management is. I shudder to think what working in a place like that might be like in terms of culture. How often are we getting praise? How often are we getting appreciated? How much are we able to talk about our work and make improvements to it? Or how often are we even asked that question? So performance management, how you do it, can also lead to a really great workplace culture. In fact, my assertion is that performance management is one of the major ways in which the rubber of culture hits the road. Next slide, please. So let's quickly talk about some characteristics of high-performing team. So what is a high-performing team? Well, obviously it's the team that gets the job done. But what are some of the conditions that are more behavioral that make a high-performing team? And how can we, as owners and managers, create those teams? So first of all, there is trust. Can you hit the, I think it's got a couple, I think it has another, there you go. You can actually just hit them all at once, make it easy for you. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is trust. So being vulnerable with your teammates. So here's an example. The things that you need to talk about that you don't like talking about. So let's say somebody in your team did something that was dismissive, or it was hurtful, or it was something that hurt your feelings in some way. We don't always have environments where we can talk about how we feel about something, because frankly, we don't often have a business culture where people can share these types of things. So being able to talk about something that went awry with your teammate means that you're going to be vulnerable and that you trust them enough to be able to talk about it. So, you know, hey, Lloyd, when you said that and you just totally shut me down, that was not fair. You know, we need to talk about that because I felt like I was dismissed. And though I am trusting that Lloyd is going to hear me and not tell me that that's my problem, right? So I'm okay to be vulnerable with my teammates. I think that is something that doesn't happen very often because we don't nurture that. We are always worrying about covering our own butts, and we are always trying to save face. And that, so then if we can't be vulnerable with each other, then the work suffers. Okay, and this is a theme that will continue on. So the same thing goes with productive conflict. We don't always agree with each other. Just because we're on the same team does not mean that we're going to see eye to eye. And if we don't have the ability to bring that up and say, hey, you know, I disagree with that, then what's going to happen? Well, there's going to be conflict that's underneath the surface. It's been pushed underground. And if we are a team that are afraid of conflict, we avoid it. And so there's a bunch of stuff that's going on underneath the surface that not only affects our relationships, but at the end of the day, it affects the work that we're trying to do, because we can't be honest about how we actually think about something. So a high-performing team can have productive conflict. You can say, hey, listen, I don't agree with that. Oh, okay, well, let's talk about how we can come to some kind of consensus. Brings me to the next point. It takes a lot of commitment to have true consensus, that I am not going to go along with it just because everyone else is going along with it when I have some serious reservations. I'm going to say to my teammates, listen, guys, this isn't working. I think we need to make some changes. That is a commitment to the goal of the team and the commitment to speak up when you are not there. And so that is, you know, true consensus rather than just on the surface. And then the big one is accountability versus blame. This is one that frustrates all of us to no end. So both from our end and the other person's end. So let's say that I was supposed to do something for my team and it was due tomorrow morning. And I was late getting started and I was going to pull an all-nighter and get it done. Well, then my kid got really sick and we ended up in the emergency room. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to call my teammates and I'm going to say, oh my God, guys, I am not going to have this done on time. I left it too late. I'm going to be honest with you. I left it too late. And now this unfortunate thing happened that I couldn't control. So now I'm going to have to let you guys all down. And we're going to have to think about, you know, how we need to redo this thing. To me, that is ownership, because I should have started earlier. I should have, you know, done the things that I was supposed to do earlier. And now at this 11th hour, I'm screwing up. I could also say, listen, guys, you know what? my kid got sick. I'm sorry. So I just couldn't do this on time. The other aspect would be if you're a supervisor, owner, manager, and you are talking to your employee and this happens, and you can say, so you can point a finger, you can be punitive, and you can say, well, you know what, this has made a mess for everything. And you know what, this is like a lot of incompetence on your part, and it's a blame, kind of a finger pointing thing. Or you can say, all right, well, listen, I hear that, you know, this bad thing happened to for your kid. I hope your kid's okay. But in the future, you know, maybe is there a way that you can mitigate these types of things from happening? Is there a way that you can start to do things in a more timely manner? Okay, so having that developmental discussion and having that other person be accountable and own what it is that they did wrong. Not about pointing fingers, because the thing's already happened. You can't change that. Last thing is attention to results. A lot of people on teams only care about their own part. We ask people when we recruit, are you a team player? What we're really trying to say is, listen, do you understand how your piece fits with the ultimate outcome, what your team is trying to do? Are you going to just care about your piece and then, you know, go have a nap? Or will you see if other people need your help, and will you jump in because you understand the consequences of pieces falling apart, and how will you step up to you know, get that result? So these are some characteristics of high performing teams, and they're very much about how people feel about being in that team and how they feel about their teammates. And so performance management is how these things will be created, not necessarily personalities. Yes, we luck out. Sometimes we have people that come and they're very healthy individuals and they're able to do these things all on their own. But I think part of our job is to teach people these behaviors, not only model them ourselves, but having other people model these behaviors so they became the culture and the way that we engage with each other. Next slide, please. And again, you can just go ahead and hit all of the thank you. Just be a lot easier for all of us. So, all right. So what do we do? What are the actual things that we can do to make those behaviors happen? So first of all, you need to set expectations. So that from day one, hopefully in your companies, you have a onboarding process, meaning that you have a way to welcome people, you have a way to orient them. But what I'm saying is that from day one, whoever the immediate supervisor is should have a sit down with this person. They should have a conversation that is about building a connection. Here's our company, here's your job description. And by the way, this job description also comes with a set of expectations around performance. Most people just stop at handing over a job description. They don't say, well, this is what this behavior looks like. And this is kind of the standard that we have here. So letting the people know that this is kind of how we do things, and also asking them about their expectations and what they like. So how do you like to receive feedback? How do you learn? You know what? These first 90 days are their probationary period, but this is where we're really going to set you up for success. We're going to sit down every 30 days. We'll review how you're doing in your training and your performance. We'll talk about what's not going well, and we'll ask you what you need to help you on your road to success. So many people will use that first 90 days as just a little trial and error. They don't really talk about the serious stuff. I'm saying talk about for the serious stuff from day one. What you're doing is you're creating a connection with them. You're letting them know that we discuss things here. We don't just wait for a year and then we sit down with you and let you know whether you're doing good or bad in your job. So you want to set that expectation and get theirs. And you want to always be proactive versus reactive. So again, don't wait till the bad thing happens. Tell them how things are handled. So yeah, you know what? If you have a question go to this person, or you can come to me, or my door is always open, or set it up so that they know what they're going to get at this company. Elicit feedback. Well, we know that feedback is an art. And my suggestion is strongly ask rather than tell. So when you ask a closed question, and one that has a yes or no answer, that is all you're going to get is a yes or no answer. You're setting up the conditions for the discussion. If you say, what do you think about this thing? Then you're opening up to ask their opinions. You're opening up to ask their ideas. You're opening it up so that they give you their input. It's really that simple. A lot of managers feel pressure to know the answers. So they will become one-sided and they'll start to tell. It's really important to remember to ask, what do you think about this? And it's okay if you don't agree with me. I just want to know what you think. And then we can talk about it. And because we trust each other, we can come to some kind of consensus. And the other thing is opinions and feelings do matter. I think one of the biggest fallacies in our businesses today is we tell ourselves that it's not our problem what employees feel. Well, I'm going to tell you, it is your problem what they feel. They don't just come to work and take off their personality and hang it up on a hook, right? They come to work as whole people. And yes, there are appropriate ways to talk about feelings, and there's inappropriate ways for sure. I would argue that that's basic socialization. However, I think it's really important that employers support the whole person. And so if there are conversations that we can have open discussions about things that go to more the heart of the matter, then I think that that goes towards connection, and it goes towards a better culture and increased productivity and performance. Finally, you've got to provide support. So part of managing performance is eliciting feedback, giving feedback, but also eliciting feedback and then providing support. So for instance, I would love to be able to go to my boss and say, I got a problem with that department, or I have a problem with so-and-so person. I find that they're, there's a little bit of, they're being very difficult. I can't get my work done. I've tried to talk to them. There's a real backlog of things, and I just don't know what to do. And I would really love it if my boss said, hey, all right, let's take a look at this. Let's see what's causing this. And that's where it's really important, because if you don't do that and you just say, well, if your boss says, well, Shama, I'm sorry, but I think you're pretty slow too. So I don't think it's all that person's problem. I think, you better speed up what you're doing as well. I'm not going to feel supported. And if that happens one too many times, I'm going to end up resigning and leaving. And so now you're going to hire somebody else in my position, and they're going to find the same thing, because there is an actual problem in this department and there's an actual problem with the process. And so now what's going to happen is you're going to incur turnover costs, because you are having people coming in and finding the same problem, and over and over again, you hire people. So if you give that employee the benefit of the doubt, you provide that support and you find out what it is that they need and you look into it, and you might find that productivity will increase just because you did that. Next slide, please. Brad, you are muted. It is now yours.
There we go. Thanks, Shama. So now we're going to engage everyone. It's time to hear everyone's thoughts around this. So what I'm going to ask everyone to do is just read that question in orange at the top. From your experience, and whether it's your own company or I think most of the people here are advising and working with numerous clients. So you can look at this question from the perspective of either your own business, or you can kind of share and reflect on your experiences with some of your existing clients. So how strategic a role does performance management play in my or your clients' businesses today? And whether you pick one or a sampling, how would you rate its current value in the business today? So I want you just to think for about 2 minutes. I'm going to kind of leave it quiet. And then when we come back, actually Rob's going to take over, and he'll facilitate getting everyone's feedback.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge Wumi, who joined us. I see that she's off camera, but hopefully she's with us. Wumi Adekami is somebody that I worked with in a previous life. So if you can hear me, Wumi, welcome. Maybe she's off camera right now. Okay.
Excellent. So give it about another 30 seconds, and then Rob, if you can take over in about 30 seconds, and we'll hear from everyone's perspectives. Hey, Rob, take it away.
Well, how does the strategic play a role in my business today? Well, it helps a little bit, but being a solopreneur, I'm not engaged so much with my own staff, but it is something that I'm always talking to with my clients. And the biggest reason for that is, for my limited experience of 30 odd years in business, I have found that business owners tend to be drivers, and they just want to get it done, and they don't understand the consequences of some of the things that they do and some of the actions they take. And as a result of it, they sometimes foster the wrong behaviors. So it, I think, is a huge value if you want to create an engaged, successful, sustainable business. You have to be we're thinking about this new performance management 3.0.
Thank you. Rob, do you want to take over and just get
Sure.
everyone else to share their feelings?
Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we're for my main company. I think it's very important. I put it up high. We're a small team of 10 of us, and we're relatively remote because we're between Canada and the U.S. So very important that we and we're lucky that we have trust in the organization. So people they're open to different decisions. No one's expecting to be the one calling the shots. So I think as we grow and get larger and on board key people, it's going to be very, very important that we do it the right way. And currently, I'd rate our current value right now would probably be 7.5. You know, I think can you do it better, leave room to do it better. With being a small team, I think there's always room for improvement. So
Yeah, I think remote operations drives even a more important, makes it even that much more important, because when you're not actually face to face with people, you can actually, you can unintentionally disengage them. So being intentional about what you do is pretty critical. Lloyd, your thoughts?
Well, with an operation of me, myself, and I, we don't have a lot of need to worry about performance management between the three of us because we just argue. But that's just getting into a different kind of psychology. From my point of view as a service provider, a real recruitment provider, I do believe strategic role plays a huge, has a huge effect on my clients. You know, on the one hand, it's almost self-serving for myself to sit there and say that, you know, the more dysfunctional your organization is, the better it is for my business, because that just means you're probably going to have higher turnover. But ideally for my clients, for them to truly have success, I'd rather see them have growth and add back for growth than just deal with companies' turnover. So, you know, in terms of its importance, I would absolutely rate this as being a 10. I'm working closely along with Shama and Amanda with our Culture Box team. And so this is a huge part of what the three of us are trying to instill with not only our clients, well, yeah, with our clients, but also with, you know, our colleagues around BNI and other companies that we deal with on and off.
So question for you, having that kind of perspective, working with clients, what do you gauge as the actual cost of not doing it well?
Of not managing your employees' time, like within an organization, is that what you mean?
A good performance management process.
Well, I mean, turnover costs 1.5 to 2 times an average company's salary for that particular individual. So if you're talking about hiring $100,000 a year person, it's going to cost you easily $250,000 in time, effort, and money every time that position turns over. So if you can't properly, you know, manage their performance and get the most out of them, and then you have to replace them, it's a huge cost to any organization. And the significance of turnover to any organization can, you know, kill any type of growth that any company wants to be having.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And that's good perspective, because I don't think a lot of owners understand the real cost of that turnover.
Well, and then it's a cost of time as well as money, because I don't care what organization you are, if you have to stop and start to reevaluate and look at your hiring process or go back to rehiring people, it limits your focus on continuing to grow your company, because it's one of the biggest things that sideswipes most organizations, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Deb, your thoughts?
Well, being in the corporate world for 30 plus years in business and HR and sales, all those components, I've seen companies, you know, do it well, but I've seen a lot of companies, the majority of companies, that need improvement, right? So I would say I can rate on my one hand those companies that might do it well, which is sad, right? It's really sad, because this is such a key component. So the importance of it, huge, you know, plus 10, right? But, and, you know, I get requests today a lot of times for, oh, I need to put a performance management system in place. Well, what does that mean to you? It's really yesterday's version of performance management is the annual review cycle. So no, most business owners or corporations for that matter really don't, they figure if they put that in place, they check the box, right? And so they don't really understand the impact on culture overall and how it can be detrimental. And I've been involved in performance management. I've been in HR for many years. I can tell you, I hated my review process, hated it. Right? Yeah. I just despised it, and it demotivated me, not because it was a bad review. Of course, they were always glowing, right? But just for the fact that I always had to manage it with my manager. My manager didn't really have a clue what I did, right? So I had to document it. It was like, okay, if you're going to recognize me, then really recognize me, right? And don't try to poke holes in everything that you think I'm doing wrong, because that's the other thing that happens in performance management is it becomes oh, I can't give you too many things that you're doing right. I need to find some things that you're doing wrong too, right? And those get highlighted, and then you get demotivated, right? So I would say how I would rate its current value, I would say is -2, to -5, right? Because most managers don't really know how to have that effective conversation as well, right?
Well, I
So
think,
that's
if I
really-
may, I think it probably becomes a performance rating system, not a performance management system.
Mhm.
Right.
And the phrases become the same, right? Because they've got 20 people to rate, and it's just a matter of process. It's not really about the conversation. So I really, yeah, I disagree with having an annual performance review, actually. Like, I think it's a good check the box thing, but I think you need it way more often. I think you need a minimum monthly, weekly conversation with those employees around what they're doing well and how they can improve and how they can change their behavior. And then, semi-annually, quarterly, annually, still have those formalized conversations, but have it way more often. And that's a piece of work for managers to do, because it takes a lot of time. But to Lloyd's point about turnover, I've seen companies go through 30 and 40% turnover in positions. Like, think about how much cost that is costing that company. And actually, if you do the ROI behind it and you show them, they're like, it's astronomical, right?
Yeah.
And they don't believe it. But it is true, the true cost, right, for the ROI. So yeah, I have a real passion about this and how it needs to change, right? So
Right. You are a missionary.
Yeah.
Wendy, any thoughts? If I could get you to unmute and give us some thoughts.
Yeah, sure. Good to see you, Rob. I think I'll just speak from an employee perspective, and in terms of setting expectation, most the annual performance reviews don't even set the right expectation, and it's usually not clear. So you're not even sure what you're working towards. You don't know what success means. And then when you try to define your own idea of success, they kind of want to steer you away from that. I mean, for me, I've been told that my dreams, like my ideas about work, are too romantic. But then they still don't, so they can't challenge me, but they still won't let me challenge them.
Yeah,
So
because
it's
it
just
doesn't fit
like,
into a box.
exactly. So I think not being clear on expectations, like, what does it mean to grow here? What do I need to do to grow? It's really not stated, but then they still kind of say you need to learn more. Okay, what do I need to learn more of? They don't really know. So it's just it's a very frustrating environment when there's no clarity and then you're not allowed to dream. So if you let your employees dream, I think it's like a rocket that will just push the whole organization to where they want to be.
That's an interesting insight. I like that. Amanda, just in the essence of time, Amanda, your thoughts as well?
Yeah, so I'll take it. My clients are the ones that are delivering these annual reviews. That's exactly what Deb said. That's what performance management means to most people, is that annual review. So most of my clients are the ones delivering this, and some of them also are not only delivering this or conducting this with their employees, they're also receiving one from above as well. And I think that the question, how strategic a role does performance management play in their business? I would say it's not at all strategic. It's something that they have to do. It's not seen as part of the bigger picture, and that there's a real meaning behind it. And how would I rate its current value? Because I was going to say 1 to 2, but I would join Deb over also with the -1 to -5, because again, it's something that they have to do. And for a lot of my clients, the difficult piece is that there's so much time that is spent on what needs to be improved, what's not being done enough of. And instead, whereas what happens if we spend more of that time focusing on the employee's strengths and putting attention there and saving, but a lot of times the the value is lost because there's the great job on this, you're going to get a raise, you're going up a step in the payroll, but here is the long list of things you need to do better.
Yeah. Do you find that it's really based on, this is your job description, don't step out of it, and your review is based on the last good or bad thing you did?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes the strengths and the focus on leadership behavior, it sometimes makes it in the mix, but most of the time those reviews are on, did you get the job done? Did you complete a task? And so there's a big piece missing. And what I find with my work is that right now, I do a lot of leadership behavior reviews, or I'm brought in to do 360 reviews or debriefs. And so there's a lot of attention paid to that. But what comes up for me, and after Shama's great presentation here, is that revisiting of like, what on earth would happen? What's possible if the performance review was matched up, like if somehow that was connected? Because magic can happen when that occurs.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for your input. I think there's lots of key points and more than just 3. So
Yeah, actually, I'm going to skip the points. I want to keep us moving forward, but I did want to share my own experience as well. The last 13 years of growth consulting I've been doing with companies, I would say this is probably the biggest single missed opportunity I've seen in changing culture and changing performance of the organization as a whole. Because the organizations I've worked with, the ones that grow and are the top performers, are the ones that have been able to achieve a very effective culture of accountability. But it's that when you talked about that healthy culture of accountability, and really that's driven through this performance management, but not the traditional approach. The coaching, the weekly, the real-time current approach to performance management. And it does have to be performance management. It's not just that I check in, I chat with my employees once a week. It's I chat with my employees once a week specifically for a few minutes to focus on how they're doing, give them praise, give them feedback, identify opportunities for improvement, and be there as a coach and mentor, and use the process in an effective, constructive manner. If all managers could do that more effectively, it's amazing, because the organization takes off, the culture takes off. It can transform it. But it's a discipline, and it is something that doesn't necessarily come naturally to most organizations, at least the ones I've dealt with.
Yep, very true. And a lot of times we tend to reward the wrong behavior, right?
Sorry, laughed a
Kind
little
of like
bit.
that.
I did, because the first time you and I met, that's what we were just raving about. Like, oh my God, what is the matter with business today?
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, and it's just in every industry. It's not just any particular one, as well, is what I see as well too, right?
all right.
Okay,
Wow,
let's keep moving forward. Shama, do you want to carry us forward?
Of course, thank you. And you can go ahead and hit your, there you go. I spent all this time, I didn't really need to do that. So thanks, Brad. Yeah, so thanks so much, you guys, for fantastic insights. It just goes to show you that these are things that are really, really needed. We need to be conscious and intentional about culture, and that everything that we do as owners, managers, supervisors, we are adding or taking away every small little thing. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more, about there are, with performance management. I think we're all on the same page in terms of what I mean here when I say performance management 3.0. Really, it's a mindset, and it is a philosophy more than anything else. And so you build your processes with those with those things in mind, that this is what is required for good culture. So how can I turn that? How do I make that into a process, particularly when it's a company of, 1,000 or more people? Then yes, it is important to translate that into a process. So now we're going to move forward and talk about how performance management, how you do it, helps to build a good or bad, as the case may be, workplace culture. One of the things that I feel really, really strongly about is what happens when somebody makes a mistake. It's something so simple, but it is something that has huge repercussions throughout the organization. So let's say I'm a brand new employee. I had just started and I've joined your company, and you've onboarded me and you're training me, and I've got a buddy who's taking care of me and helping me through. And after about a month, because I've now done things on my own and I've maybe a little bit more settled in the company, now I'm been left on my own to do the job. And I make some kind of mistake because I'm new, and people make mistakes. So I do something that has a consequence of some kind for the company. And I'm, now what do I do? Of course, I have anxiety about this. I'm worried. So I go to my supervisor and I say, hey, boss, I'm sorry, but I did this thing. How bad is it? What do we need to do here? Well, if the boss says to me, hey, Shama, all good, this is a rookie mistake and I see it happen a lot. You know what, this is why it probably happened. So let's just sit down and I'll show you how to fix this. And also there's a couple of other departments that are going to need to be told that this has happened, but we can fix this. So let's just, talk about this and let's get this done. No worries. You know what, a lot of people make this mistake. So I'm going to think, oh, wow, thank you for, what a relief. Okay, we can fix this. I'm not going to get fired. So my boss has taken the opportunity to teach me further, has used it as a learning opportunity. And now next time I can probably fix it myself, or I will avoid this mistake altogether. All good. That's a win-win. But what if I come to my boss and I say, oh, I'm so sorry, this thing happened. And he just freaks out at me. He says, oh my God, now this is going to create all kinds of problems. We got to talk to this guy and that guy. And you know what? This is like, I'm just so sick of this thing happening. It's just like, okay, I am freaked out beyond the beyonds. I'm brand new. I don't know what this is going to mean for my probationary status. Am I going to, I'm now a little bit knocked off kilter here. And I also am no longer going to trust this guy because I know that he freaks out when something goes wrong. So next time something goes wrong, I'm not going to go to him. And maybe depending on my personality and depending, what I'm like, I might start look for ways to hide my mistakes, and I might start look for ways to blame other people or just something to deflect off of me. And if enough people in this organization start to do this, because the message is it's not okay to screw up, then all of a sudden you have a bunch of people that are hiding their mistakes and they're covering up, so nothing is getting dealt with. And you now have what is called a culture of mediocrity, which I think is the opposite of a culture of accountability. So you now have a culture of mediocrity where no one's owning up to anything. No one's owning any mistakes. And the saddest and worst thing of all, nobody is owning your customer experience. When you have a culture of mediocrity, it comes out in the customer experience. You guys have all probably had the experience of dealing with a company where you got the runaround. Nobody knew how to fix your problem, so they just kept transferring you to all kinds of different departments. That is a culture of mediocrity because nobody in that organization owned the customer experience. Well, that's not my area, but you know what? It's not my area, but you know what? Hang on there. I will go and I'll get somebody right now that can help you. So that is a culture of accountability versus a culture of mediocrity. And so just something as simple as how safe it is to make a mistake in your company can affect that. Think about it. The conversations that you have in your company, are they developmental or are they punitive? So discipline is something in HR, we talk about the importance of having a progressive discipline policy. Absolutely, we must. But what if we looked at discipline as development and as a service? I'm going to tell you that this was wrong and that I'm going to show you the new way, a better way to do it. I'm going to help you, I'm going to ask you, what do you need to get better? And I will have a developmental conversation with you. This is not a punitive conversation, particularly if it just happened. Yeah, if you've done the same thing 5 times, well, then yeah, there's maybe a problem there. But initially, this should be a developmental conversation. So is it developmental or is it punitive? Are you pointing fingers or are you trying to improve? Also, are your conversations directive or are they collaborative? Am I going to tell you what to do because I'm your boss? So we have X, Y, and Z to be done by tomorrow morning, go do it. Or, hey, team, we got X, Y, and Z to be done by tomorrow morning. That's a bit of a short deadline. How do you guys think we should do this? Ah, that is collaborative. I'm asking you what you think. I am not just directing you. So that is showing you that you have control over the outcome, that I value your input and that I value your effort. So next time there is a deadline that is got me against the wall as the manager, I'm going to be able to really connect with, to really count on you guys, my team, to say, oh, you know what, we can do this. As opposed to if I'm calling the shots because I'm a micromanager and I can't let go, well, I'm pretty much on my own when that deadline is up. Okay, so that is also a big, big piece of workplace culture. Next is relationships. So when I talked about sitting down with this person that you hired on day 1, and you talked about what their expectations are, as well as your own expectations, what you really did was created a connection. So we are all human beings before we are employees. And what we really, really thrive on is good, healthy connections with our coworkers. We spend more time at work than we do at home. I mean, at least that was true before the lockdown happened. And so we want our relationships to be meaningful. And therefore, we want to be able to say what's on our minds. We want to be able to have input. We want to be able to feel connected with the people around us. So imagine having that fantastic relationship with your immediate boss and them having that fantastic relationship with their immediate boss, and so on, and so on, and so on. An entire organization where everybody had a wonderful two-way relationship, professional, but a two-way deep connection type of relationship with their N+1 that went throughout the organization. Imagine the conversations, imagine the culture of an organization like that. And it starts with one relationship, you and your immediate subordinate. So that, is it my way? Is it the highway? Or is it our way? So again, being collaborative and asking, what they need. If they have a problem, maybe you can't fix it, but maybe you can make it better for them by asking them what they need. That's relationship. And finally, behaviors. So Brad says, culture is nothing other than the behaviors that you tolerate. And he's so right about that. So what if your company values are big about diversity, equity, and inclusion? You pride yourself in being this company where DEI is a big deal for you. But at the same time, there are people in the organization that tell racist jokes and nobody calls them out on it. Is that aligned with company values? It's not. So that kind of dissonance absolutely destroys culture. So somebody who wants to see that alignment, you know, this company stands for fantastic customer service. And all I see is customers getting the runaround here. Like, this is BS. This isn't even real. So talk about being disengaged. Talk about not, you know, putting your money where your mouth is. Next slide, please.
So now we're going to chat a little bit about what areas of business could be improved with a cultural assessment and what things can I do with culture to enhance my business the most. So think about that question, and we're going to spend a couple of minutes letting you do that. And then we're going to actually come back and chat a little bit about that. And maybe as you're thinking about that, try and come up with what kind of cultural assessment do you think would be a good one for your business as well. So I'm going to get Brad to kick us off here, because he spoke last time.
Okay, thanks. So I've used a couple different culture assessment tools, and actually I'm really looking forward to hearing some of Amanda's thoughts, because I know she's a subject matter expert in this area. But I think you know, these are so interrelated, the culture aspect and the performance management aspect. And at least from my own experience, you know, it's the old John Jones quote: what gets measured gets done, what gets fed back gets improved, and what gets rewarded gets repeated. And I think around this culture piece, the performance, the behaviors, and their impact on culture, and having that kind of dialogue and that kind of full circle interaction, I think is where a lot of companies could really improve the effectiveness of the whole thing. So I think it'd be the combination of all three of those things.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Amanda's comments as well. But one of the things that I've seen is just making people, business owners particularly, aware of the way that their actions impact the culture, and not just their actions, but their words impact the culture. Because if you say you don't want something to happen and yet you turn around and let it happen, you've just given everybody permission to do it. And that might not be what you're looking for. So I'll let Amanda step up next and tell us a little bit about her thoughts.
Wow, I feel like the bar has been raised. So I guess the question: what areas of my business could be improved with a culture assessment? It feels really loaded in that, from my clients' perspectives, they're probably not looking at it from my culture needs improvement. They're going to talk from a place of, here's what's not working for me. Here's what's not serving me. Here's what I want more or less of, or here's the person I can't stand working with. What I feel that what can be improved for organizations and the enhancement piece for culture assessments is that leaders within the organization really need to stand up and say, I care about my the work environment I'm creating for my employees. There's huge value there. And what an assessment can do, and I'll speak to what Shama, Lloyd, and I offer our clients in terms of a culture assessment, is that it gives leaders within an organization, whether it's a director or manager of a specific department or the owner of a small, medium-sized company, is that it's an opportunity to get a snapshot of where a third party neutral experts in their fields are highlighting, here's where we see there's opportunities to improve the culture, to improve the environment of your workplace. And that really then it's in the hands of that leader to say, here's what we're going to do first. And like, you know, Shama's brought forth and all of us have talked about, culture includes so many moving parts. And it's a lot to take on all at one time. So maybe it is one-on-one coaching with a leader. Maybe it is working to look at what your performance management process is, or as most people know, is those annual reviews. Maybe it is looking at how people are recruited and onboarded within your company. But that culture assessment really allows leaders to say, okay, so what area am I going to tackle first? And that increased awareness of, holy crap, there are so many moving parts. I need to get on this. I'm accountable for this for my organization.
So, I mean, you've gotten quite deep into that, but here's a question for you, because you started off the whole conversation with, this isn't working for me. I don't like working with that person. So how do you quantify it? Because one of the things they're going to look from you is, what's the value that you bring to the relationship, and how is this cultural thing going to impact my bottom line? How do you bring that into the conversation?
So if it's a business owner, leader within the organization, the ROI is that they're going to be coming to me saying, I would like you to coach. I'd like you to work with this employee because I need more out of them. Whether that's in their leadership behavior, whether that's in their performance, whether it's working with stakeholders or conflict management. But the ROI is that they're going to get more out of their employee. They're going to get more bang for their buck. So that's from the business owner's perspective. If people are contacting me, if it's an employee or a manager saying, I need some support here, it's because their lives are being impacted. So the ROI on that is that they have more of a life outside of work. They're actually able to sleep at night. So depending on what avenue clients come through me to come across me, that ROI is going to look different. And for a lot of business owners, that ROI that comes back in, I need more out of this employee through conversations. The hope is that awareness comes that they're part of these moving parts as well, right? So, but normally it's not going to be a business owner saying, I'm awful at leadership, my culture is awful. They're going to say, I need help with these employees.
And then you're finessing the culture more than anything else.
We're helping improve the culture of that organization, one leader at a time. And the ultimate hope is the person that we're talking to comes to that realization of, you know what, I'm part of this too. How can you support me? But it's likely not going to be the first step.
Right. Michael, your thoughts?
Not too much to add in the sense of, I think your organization is in dire trouble if you don't have these in place, you know, and having a proper, you know, system into place. So you build that strong, trusting culture from day one. And as you grow, I think if you don't, it won't just affect three things, it'll affect everything that you're doing, right? So you'll just be, playing the blame game like you talked about earlier. And it's like COVID. Like we may have that challenge in our own organization sometimes. Well, the buyers are all sitting at home; they're hitting the reorder button. So how are we going to get beyond that then? What can we do to change that and just sit back and on our hands and take defeat and wait till it improves, because it'll always be that challenge. So how do we make a difference? So I think having the fact that you've got that unstoppable mindset that you continue to grow and build and trust and collaborate. And I think we're, as an organization, we're pretty good that way on a regular basis. But as we know we're going to jump into that next realm and that next level, we need to have this everything kicking on all cylinders. And I think so. If we don't, it'll affect every single thing that we do. So I think it's imperative that we and everybody's on side to do this. And mistakes are good, but we talked about earlier. If you're not making mistakes, and yeah, sure, don't make the same mistake twice. But let's say we're not making things happen. We're not growing, and if we're not in uncomfortable environments, we're not growing either. You don't grow mostly in being in an uncomfortable environment. You need challenge. So I think it's important, as we always, all of us here talk about that we all start to really grow when we're in a situation where we have to learn and grow, because we're in a position of uneasiness, and that's good, right? That's growth, that's opportunity. Yeah.
Awesome. Deb, I'm interested in your perspective because I know you're involved in a recent startup, and I'd like to know how the culture is impacting that business and where it's going.
Yeah. So, I mean, startups, you think you can start from the ground up, right? But there's so many things that really get involved in different pieces, because usually you're working in different components, right? So you really need to bring those startups together. The one that I was in had various companies coming together, and they all had totally different cultures, right? So there's no real one overarching culture that you need to try to develop from the ground up to bring those in, to play. So I think, even though it's a startup, it's not going to be an easy thing to do, but you do have to start it. You have to start it, right, is I guess the key focus. And so, Brad mentioned it before around measurement. What gets measured moves, right? And so I think that's where a culture assessment can really add value, because you need to understand where you're at, right? So whether it's even an engagement survey, it's going to improve your culture, your employee engagement, your customer engagement, and your vendor engagement, right? So if you really strongly believe in the values of your company, you need to start walking the talk, frankly, right? So, there has to be executive sponsorship with it, right? Because if your executive is not aligned and doesn't talk to it, your business owner doesn't talk to it, you're out to lunch, right? So that has to happen right from the top throughout the organization. And I think the best way that I've seen it work effectively is, choosing top 3 focuses. Once those measurements come out, that senior executive needs to be really focused on driving that in business meetings. So it's not an HR program. When it becomes an HR program, it never succeeds, right? And so it has to be driven by the leaders of the organization, and they have to talk to it on their own. They have to believe what they're preaching in that respect, right? And it's usually the values of the organization, and really displaying, I think you talked about it earlier, Rob, the examples, right? And so, we used to do leadership behavior value conversations with the entire company, led by the business, right? And so all we did was talk about examples where you displayed values, and what did that mean, and how did that impact the business, right? So people understood what that meant and how it spread through the organization like wildfire, right? And so I think that's where I see the huge impact, and no more than 3 focuses, right? So you can't change the world in a day, and you have to focus your efforts in 3 key areas, measure them, see them move, and then either continue to put those focuses. If they're not moving, what are you doing to change it? And then move on to other parts of the organization. So the people can follow you along in a organized, strategic perspective, right? And really, and create clarity. So I think those are kind of key components that I've seen.
I used to chuckle when I was in the military. I used to tell people that people followed me not out of respect, but out of idle curiosity, trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. I think one of the big parts about values and leadership, and culture is can't forget that everybody brings a piece of culture with them when they join the company. It's whether or not that culture is aligned that we need to be aware of. And I'm going to give the last 2 minutes to Shama.
Perfect, thank you. I loved what you said, Deb, about the sponsorship piece. And so with change management, the first principle is sponsorship, but the other pieces all have to do with support. How do you support people to be with change and do something different? Because that's what we're talking about when we talk about changing culture. It means we have to change something, and people don't like change, and they go back to what they know as opposed to doing something different. So that's a whole other conversation. But thanks for that. All the great insights from all of you guys. It's fantastic to hear those. So quickly summarize everything that we talked about. I'm hoping that that you found this discussion useful. When it comes to creating high-performing teams, which of course you need to have in order to show the value or have the value when you're selling your business or making that large-scale change, you need to have a high-performing team that will hit the ground running after the change happens. That's because they're cohesive, they have trust, their behaviors are there to set them up to be adaptable. So one of the things you need to do in order to make sure that the team is and remains a high-performing team is to dispel dysfunction at the root. So the situation where you had a person who was having a problem, if you want to blame that person for the problem, you may not be looking at the larger systemic issue. And sometimes it is the person, but 9 out of 10 times there's a bigger story. So always important to look at the bigger story and try to correct it from that perspective. One of the things that Wumi said, which is we worked at the same organization, and it was coming from that place of, you know what, employees got blamed for everything. They didn't, people didn't look at themselves. Management did not look at themselves to see what it was that could be improved. It was instead, it's your problem, you fix it. So that's not a great way to have a high-performing team because there is no support in that structure. Company values should be woven into the fabric. So again, every small behavior that you tolerate that is not aligned is then detrimental to the culture that you're trying to create. But at the same time, conversely, you have to model the behaviors that you want to see. So if you are looking to create that culture of accountability, then you need to be accountable yourself, and you need to have conversations that lead towards accountability. Creating that strong company culture by ensuring that everyone is connected at a deep level. I cannot say this enough. That first day when somebody walks into the company, you want them to have a stellar connected experience that, you know what, I'm going to love working here. And that is going to be about, I love my boss. I love how they welcome me, all of those things. And that there's a connection by somebody asked me, I've never been to a job where somebody asked me, so how you like working here? Or so are we meeting your expectations? I've never been asked that. But imagine if I had been, how would I have felt about working at that company? So that's where you want to make sure that connections are created and maintained. And then finally, that strong ability when you've got your high-performing teams where everyone is trusting each other, they're working together, and all of the conflict and all of the discussions are about the work, not personal differences. These are the teams that will adapt when large-scale change happens. When this company is sold, the new owner is going to get so much more value because there's not going to be a lot of lost opportunity. There's not going to be a lot of lost revenue. There's not going to be turnover. There's not going to be those things that inevitably happen when a company changes hands. So that's what, you guys in Mexit here are doing, which I think is really, really important, that when somebody buys a company, they should get an assurance that, hey, these people that you're getting, they're really awesome. They are a high performing team. And so that's it for me today. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Shama, that was great. Really appreciate it. And I think with most of the business owners we come across, so often if they could have fixed this themselves, they already would have. But it's the Einstein challenge where we can't solve problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And just, I think our first challenge is creating that awareness that they're going to need help. They're going to need a neutral third party, as you describe it, to be able to come in and help deal with this. And, quite often your role as an HR specialist, I think is really key up front in terms of creating a high performance team, creating that value in the organization that stays regardless of the ownership is so crucial. But they also need, peers that they can talk to, other business owners who are kind of experiencing the same things, accountants, lawyers, advisors, and we as Mexit are just one seat in the rest of that team. And for a successful exit, they really need to engage subject matter experts that can help them in all of these key areas. And, we discussed a lot of, I think, really great ideas today. The key, though, is taking these ideas and making something happen. So in terms of next steps, taking these ideas, back to our own teams and hashing them out and getting everyone's perspectives and views on them. And then, how do we take these ideas and as a team kind of align around them and incorporate them into our planning and thinking? And then, ultimately, what are we going to do about this? This is lovely, but it's what we do where the rubber hits the road. So I'm going to close off there in terms of today. So I want to thank everyone. The contact information's here. We will share both the presentation and we will also share the video as well online. So we'll get that. And Shama, I'm going to leave it up to you and I'll let you have the last word.
Well, thank you so much, Brad and Rob, for inviting me to present today. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I hope that everybody found some useful pieces in here. I think that we need to talk more about the behavioral stuff. And I think we need to talk more we need in business, I think, more than anything, to speak in a nuanced way. Everything is not either black or white. There are so many shades of gray in between that we need to be open to learn and to understand, because I think that's where the real value of these types of discussions come from. So thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity to present and meet everyone today.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Yeah, well done, Shama.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
fantastic
you.
day.
Great job, Shama.
Yeah, well done.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brad.
Very nice to meet
bet.
you, Michael.
Everybody have a great day.
You
Bye.
too. Chat soon.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Great job, Shama.
Thank you.
Deep breath. No, you did super. That's fabulous.
Is it too early to drink? Oh, it's only 1 o'clock.
No, it's not. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Okay, good. All right, so I thought that went well.
Yep.
Well, and I think the big thing for this to me is by recording this, it allows us to kind of capture a content piece that will give you a link and you can download it. We're going to put it on our YouTube channel, and then you can use it as your own content for promotion. Because,
Thank you.
you know, to me, I like these kind of discussions because I think it creates better content where it doesn't come across as salesy. It comes across just as a discussion.
Awesome. So do you know, Rob, do you know Wumi, or
She
you
was on
don't?
my
right?
she's one of my LinkedIn people. That's all. That's all.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
really
So
all I know.
I worked with her at when the company was called Maxim Analytics, and then it became Bureau Veritas. So she was actually in my client group. I was the HR person. So yeah, I was just listening to her talking about how she's being treated, and I know intimately what she means. It's a group of, it's a chemistry company. So high introvert science types, right? Oh, yeah. She works in environmental stuff and she's just a lovely person. But anyway, okay. Well, I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to the link. I will totally promote it. And also I would love an introduction to Michael.
Okay.
If you could facilitate that for me. I have a partner, we have a company called Help Share Inc. So this is another business venture I'm involved in. He and I are looking to position ourselves in front of nonprofits to provide custom software development. So he has capacity, a great capacity to do development at competitive rates, and they've done a lot of work in Australia. And they've done a lot of work with not-for-profits and in the mental health area. So that's something that's that's a passion of mine. And so we're always looking for funding and things like that for apps and to develop apps and things like that. So sounds like Michael might be a guy to talk to for that.
Have you talked to anybody at BDC about that?
Not at BDC, but Alberta Innovates. We are in conversations with Alberta Innovates currently.
Immediately comes to mind is Juan, because he's running a venture capital fund for innovative tech in Alberta. So
Okay.
I will facilitate an introduction to you to Juan for you.
Thank you. I would love that. And also I will.
One specifically focused on, isn't he leading on the women business thing now?
Yes. But technology.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that this could be a good fit for you, Shama.
Yeah, definitely, because I think in the not-for-profit world, in any case, lagging behind, because the need is huge, but the budget just isn't there. So we want to be able to, provide software consulting more than anything else. My role is the business development and the relationship building, the stuff that I like to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then if we are successful in selling an implementation, then I'm a change management specialist, so I can do that piece for them as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a win-win, and I'm excited about it. So.
Oh, yeah, I could do that. I can get that.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. Guys, thank you so much for this opportunity. This was amazing. I hope that I'm hoping that it was what you expected and wanted from this. And I hope to do more stuff in the future.
Yeah.
Love working with you guys.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
You'll get over that, Shama.
What, loving you guys? Oh, stop it. You're going to disappoint me? Well, people are always disappointing. That's rule number one.
Yeah.
People will always disappoint you. It's how much of a expectation you build up.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. No, that was good. It was a fabulous presentation. I loved it, and I can't wait to
Thanks,
start
guys.
sharing it because it's
Okay.
it's important.
All right. Well, tell your friends about me.
I will.
That's good.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you so much.
I'll facilitate that introduction to you over the next week.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And we will talk soon.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Yes.
Bye, Brad. Bye-bye.